I kind of have a saying that failure is whenever you stop, and whenever you feel like you're failing, you got to evaluate and figure out what's going on and really take into action something else. And you might think it's funny, but I kind of use the nursing process. Remember in nursing school, whenever you learned that nursing process, it was really annoying that you never used.
Yeah.
Well, the concept of assessing, diagnosing, planning, implementing, and evaluating can be applicable to a lot of things in life. And I feel like it's
Welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. Join me for some honest, unscripted discussions with other CRNAs who are transforming their financial lives. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes, you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today. And now, on with the show. Welcome to another Provider Spotlight episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. My guest today is a CRNA who has started her own real estate brokerage in Texas. Annabelle McKenzie is a Houston native with over 19 years of experience in the medical field. She enjoys serving the Texas Medical Center and greater Houston area as a CRNA. Her nursing career started in 2002 as a graduate of Texas Women's University. She then furthered her education by obtaining her master's degree in nurse anesthesia from the Gooding Institute of Nurse Anesthesia in Panama City, Florida, back in 2009. Annabelle moved back to Houston and struggled to find her perfect home in the continually changing real estate market. This experience sparked her interest in real estate. As a healthcare professional and a Houston native, Annabelle has a distinctive understanding of her clients' needs in Houston's dynamic, growing housing market. She's now a broker associate and co-founder of PRN Realty, where she loves to share the services focused on working with healthcare professionals and their family members. Annabelle takes pleasure in serving her healthcare professional colleagues with their real estate needs. She especially understands the help needed in relocating to Houston, around Houston, and from Houston. Annabelle has been married to her husband, Scott McKenzie, for 4.5 years, and they reside in the Houston Heights area. She enjoys traveling, tennis, reading, and volunteering with her favorite charity, Candle Lighters. Annabelle, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Bobby, for having me. This is awesome what you're doing here.
Well,
I'm
thank
super
you.
excited.
Yeah, I tell you, we have such great conversations here, and I learned something fantastic from everybody that comes on. So I'm excited to have you here today. Let's get right into it. So, in
Yes.
your bio, we touched a little bit on what sparked your interest in real estate. So, would you mind walking us through that home buying experience?
Yes, Bobby. It all started with my personal transaction, buying my own home back in 2014. I felt like I had so many questions. I had no idea what I was doing. I just trekked along and went and bought a house with a realtor. And after I bought the house, I remember just thinking to myself, what did I just do? And so after I just continually just looked into things and was reading and reading and reading and looking at the community I bought my house into and following what was going on in the market. And so it really was a nonstop continuing education. I felt like I was doing on my part with learning what I did as a buyer. And that whole process led me to other ideas too with helping people that I was around in the operating room setting, hearing what they were saying too about relocating and moving to Houston. So I had a lot of thoughts in my head going through that whole time because I was working in the operating room, obviously, as a CRNA and learning the whole buying process. So that's what really started the whole peak of interest with me owning the house and buying the
Yeah.
house.
Well, I'll say it already seems evident that you probably put more thought into how to purchase this home than a lot of people do. A lot of people are looking for different things to fit their lifestyle per se, but it sounds like you were thinking more about some of those nuts and bolts that were involved.
Well, I found later in life, more recently, that my personality, I'm very geared towards wanting to know information all the time. I like to learn things. So whenever I bought my house, I didn't feel like my realtor answered a lot of the questions for me. It was very simple. And I felt like I needed to do my due diligence on my part just as a homeowner to understand what I just did. And so I I just kept reading and reading and learning more and more about what I did. And honestly, when I bought my house at the time, I was pretty stressed. I had student loan debt, I had a car note, I had the house note, and then I just felt overwhelmed at the time. And so when I bought the house, I also was thinking about the type of community I was living in and would I be able to make money when I sold the house. And so and I was looking at all my debt at that time and really thinking like when should I sell this house and when's the best time. And so there's a lot of questions that came to my head. And as I kept learning and reading more and more, I just felt like that it was all leading towards me becoming a realtor and helping people that were like me in my own personal situation. And so that's one of the things that led me to where I'm at right now as a broker.
Yeah. So you started off as a realtor.
Yes.
So you obviously there's some education that's involved in that that's not just Google searching. So you had to spend some time, you had to spend some money in getting started here. What was that whole process like?
So when I decided to become a realtor, it was pretty much like I said earlier to help people and be that source of information. And I obviously got my real estate license through a program that was recognized by the Texas Real Estate Commission. It is called the Champions School of Real Estate here in Houston. It's a pretty large school, and they have the 6 classes that you need to get your license. You pass each class and you take a test. And after you take all the classes, you submit the certification certificates to the Texas Real Estate Commission. And the classes altogether with this particular school is close to $1,000.
Okay.
And after you are completed with all the classes, you also have to submit fingerprints and an application to the Texas Real Estate Commission. And they give you permission to take the exam. You'll get a letter and an email. And they also do a background check. So I think that was maybe $100. I can't remember
Okay.
exactly, but those are the main things that you have to do up front.
Yeah.
And then after you pass the exam, the licensing exam, then you're supposed to be sponsored by a real estate broker. And
Yeah.
then you pick the broker, and then you're sponsored, and then most likely you have to be a member of the MLS. And so there are fees with the MLS. And here in Houston, we have HAR. And
Okay.
so those fees to start up around $500, and then there's quarterly fees that are around 100. I think I wrote it down to prepare for today. It was like $111 per quarter. So
Okay.
I mean, when you start selling houses, it pays for itself. So
Yeah.
it's really not a whole lot to me for this whole startup.
Yeah, they're not unreasonable costs, and
Yeah.
certainly, already being a CRNA, that's a little easier to cover for sure. So, now how long did it actually take you once you got your license to kind of have that first interaction with a client and to get a house sold
I
or
think,
bought? You tell me the story.
well, so I think I got my license around November, and by February, I sold my first house.
Okay.
And it was a new construction, and it was actually to a pain doctor I know. And so I helped the buyer, and it was very nice. I was trained by a great broker who walked me through the whole process of how to represent a buyer. I felt very resourceful. It was very rewarding, and I find that to me, at the end of the day, that I really enjoy this career path because it is very rewarding in the sense that you're helping somebody and answering their questions and making them feel comfortable. And my goal is for them to be comfortable in their decision making. So I know I kind of went off on a tangent. I do that a lot, but that was within 6 months of getting my license. So it was a buyer, and then I did have a couple buyers after that, but it
Okay.
was slow to start.
Yeah.
It was
That's
slow
I
to
mean,
start.
that's a common story, but really
Mhm.
that's not a bad time frame. Um, when you talk about some people that take a lot longer and I don't maybe you can confirm this. I'm trying to think. I want to say that I read an article recently that talked about how there are more real estate agents than there are houses for sale. And so, that's got to make it tough. Now it wasn't necessarily that case when you got started, but things are tightening up a little bit. Even though it is obviously a seller's market right now, but it's got to be interesting, being in this field and then seeing how things have changed, particularly in the Houston market over the last 6 or 7 years.
Yes, it's very interesting. I mean, Houston's a great market to be in. We have a lot of people who move here because of the careers. We have the IT, we in the past we had the oil and gas that was more prevalent, and we obviously have the healthcare industry. And I try to focus on the healthcare relocation.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm a CRNA, so I'm around that network. So over 90% of my clients are in the healthcare industry. So we having that relo, and Houston's just such a strong market. We have a lot of just traditional real estate and transactions, buying and selling. And I'm very happy with this plan B that I have. It works really good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, and of course, being the high achiever that you are, you didn't stop at the real estate agent level. So why did you decide to take it that one, big step further to become a broker? And how has that actually helped you in, your career in this and also helped your clients?
I'm glad you're asking that because a lot of people ask me this question. So from the very beginning, when I got my real estate license, I had this vision of having a company that was strictly for the relo and the healthcare professionals. And so with this vision, I feel like the best for me to carry out that vision because it's my vision. So from the beginning, I always wanted to be a broker. And to be a broker, you have to have at least 5 years experience, and you have to have some continuing education hours, and so many transactions. It's like 12 closings pretty much. And it all translates to points, and you apply, and then you take an exam, and of course there's fees. But I just am super excited to be where I'm at now because this is where I wanted to be years ago when I first started.
Mhm.
So this is to me like where I'm starting to see things come into play, where
Mhm.
it's exciting because the things that I thought would happen years ago are it's actually happening now. And
Yeah.
I'm being more involved with the relo, with people moving from out of state to Houston. From all over the country. It's pretty amazing. And I work alongside different HR type people who work for anesthesia groups and hospitals. And we help the employee, find a job. And then I help them find a home based on their commute. So it goes really well too if the person doesn't have a job yet, because I can help them based on my knowledge base of the Houston community and healthcare, help them find a job. And
Yeah.
it really goes hand in hand. And it's so exciting. And I have a team also as a broker. It was important for me to have a team to help leverage my time and to help everything happen because in the real estate business, having a solid team is very important. And I always think about successful people in general as a team. Everyone knows Michael Jordan, right? I
Mhm.
don't know if you ever saw that Netflix that he was in recently
I've
with
got it
the
on my list. I
yeah,
haven't seen it. I keep wanting to
yeah.
watch it. I'm probably the last person on the planet that hasn't seen it, but
So the whole that really sparked some really passion in me, like watching that show, because in the very beginning when you watch him in that Netflix show, he's by himself and he's super successful, obviously, as a basketball player. And he wanted to have the championships and he had to have a team. So you see his character or his development mentally in accepting this team and adding the players to the team and working with the managers and the owners, and then you see where it led him. They won championships and it was a team that did it. And it's the same thing I feel like with real estate. You have to have a good team to make the high volume. And my goal is to keep growing the team and to support the team and lead the team. And so that is all answering your question there, why I wanted to have a
Yeah.
broker
So
and
what's it
why I
been like? I mean, you have to create a team. So you have to have people that you know them, you like them, you trust them. Um, how has that process gone as far, and like, did you start off with one employee and then, have some references for others, or, did you have this in mind kind of from the beginning? Like, hey, I need somebody who does this and I need somebody who does that, and I need this person to do this. So how did that look for you?
Well, it's definitely a trial and error kind of thing, and it's a lot of planning. To start the business, I also have a business consultant to help me, and I have a business partner. She's also a broker, and together we sit down and talk about how to execute these plans. But a lot of it's trial and error, just going about the business and seeing what we need. And as far as the people on the team, we're all contractors, so it's not employees. But I feel like whenever we interview people to join our team, it's like an interview on both ends. Do we fulfill what you're looking for as far as goals, and we explain what our goals are, and so it's kind of like a like a marriage. Like we're in this together, and we try it out, and then we go forward. And I have a lot of things laid out on how we operate and the steps to different processes, like the buying side, the selling side. So I try to organize it. It's very organized, pretty much. Our CRNA background, how we have checklists and we have algorithms for things like difficult airway and ACLS and all this. I feel like I'm incorporating that kind of mindset of organization into this business. And there are different roles, obviously, for the transaction to help make it smooth. There is so many steps to it. There's the legwork, there's paperwork, and there's obviously the broker role. And having two brokers was important to me also. So yeah, that's it's a
So how
lot.
did
It's a
so
lot.
Yeah. So how does having two brokers help you? What because you obviously are going to have to split some things there. So how does that partnership help you more than
In
it
my
hurts you?
situation, I feel like it just helps in case something were to happen to one broker, we have a backup broker.
Mhm.
And also, we both have different ways of thinking. My partner her name's Melissa Ard. She's our broker on record for the company, and she has more experience than me, and she's very good with the contracts. Um, we both bring different things to the table. We both bring great things, honestly. I mean, we just really brainstorm and we think really well together. So I think that's what another thing that adds value to the team. And our agents can contact either one of us. If one of us is not available, the other one is. So it's really just a cohesive team to have that backup and
So
support.
I
It's very
love
important.
Oh, obviously. Yeah. I mean, and I love so many of the things you're bringing up here. You're bringing up teamwork. You're bringing up mentorship. You're bringing up partnership, finding partners who have complementary skill sets,
Yes.
and which is a very important thing. You don't want people that just do the same thing. You might have the title of broker, but you can have different specialties and different assets that each one of you have and bring to the table. So there's just so much here that I'm really enjoying this conversation. So now, one of the things that is different between you and I is I work in the commercial real estate industry with apartment buildings and other things like office retail, things like that. You work in the residential side. So what's the difference there? What is it that you find that drives you in that direction versus the commercial area?
I feel like the residential part of real estate, it's a lot more social. It's more hands-on with individuals and the average person. And I feel that commercial to me is just kind of the transactions are longer, they're kind of boring to me. And I get my fulfillment of social enjoyment. I feel like outside the hospital, I feel like in the hospital setting, for example, I am so serious, it's anesthesia. You can't really talk too much in the operating room, you distract the surgeon. I feel like this real estate business, residential, is my social self, and I get to be who I am. And it helps with making the clients happy. And the commercial stuff, just it's really boring. I have a friend who's really big into this commercial stuff, and we have coffee all the time, and she's telling me about her projects and this and that, and she does it all by herself, and she's happy, and she's happy. That's important. But with me, I love the whole having the brokerage and other agents, and we go to coffee and dinners, and we entertain ourselves, and then we're doing the business together. And so I think that's the biggest difference between the residential and commercial, and that's why I love the residential stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, hey, different strokes for different folks, you know?
Yes.
So I like boring. I'm trying to make my life more boring. So
Yeah, I mean, that's different personalities, really. I
yeah.
think.
Well, 3 kids has done that to me. I'll
Oh,
just say that.
I'm not sure yet.
Life's
I'm not
exciting
sure.
enough.
I just have a cat, and she's the boring one in the house.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Um, let's talk about you and how this move into real estate, how it affected your lifestyle, maybe back when you got started and then to now, what it looks like now that you have your own company.
As far as working as a CRNA or just in
Well,
general
just
lifestyle?
basically, what does a typical week look like for you? What is your lifestyle right now? How has that changed it, from just being, like, hey, I pass gas for a living and I go to work and I come home and I go and I play tennis, or, what does that look like now? What do your work shifts look like? Are you working less at the hospital? Or are you still working full time? What's all that look like for you?
Yeah, this is a good question. So I've tried the 1099 work. I was 1099 for about 3.5 years. I just recently started a full time CRNA job with a really nice group. It's a growing group in town, and they cover a lot of surgery centers. And I felt like when I worked 1099 for them, that it was a really good match for me for working with my real estate business, because they don't do a lot of late cases, and it's mostly day surgery. And so what I've done is, when I started this full-time job, it felt like I was relieving a lot of the stress of finding 1099 work and dealing with the real estate business, because to me it was stressful dealing with both and doing the tax paperwork on both and having to deal with that day to day. And now I feel like I'm doing the Monday through Friday full-time CRNA job, and then when I go home, I work on my real estate business.
Mhm.
And on the weekends, I'm working on the real estate business. And if I need help, then I count on my team members to help me with that. And the whole idea is it's possible because you schedule it. Everything's scheduled. So I'm very a big stickler on my schedule and my time. And as long as I follow this schedule, I'm good. And a lot of my clients are also full time working in the medical field. So I'm available for them whenever they're off. And so it works out really well for me. And it can happen. And what's nice about what I'm doing right now, I'm creating an environment with PRN Realty where if an agent joins us and they have a full-time job and they want to transition to part-time or work less and do more real estate, they can. We have the team to accommodate. And I think that's the most important thing, is to have that environment. And so I created the environment for my business to work. And
Great.
so I'm super happy. I feel like I have the best of both worlds, and I feel very blessed. And it really helped me a whole lot the past couple months and this past year with COVID and everything, to have this plan B and to be able to sell houses when I didn't have anesthesia work before I started this full time job.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's
That's
fantastic. And I mean, starting a business is no small thing. And being an entrepreneur, has its share of challenges. It's obvious that you have had some obstacles along the way. You know, let let's get into that a little bit more. What are some of these challenges and humbling moments that you've had along this journey? And then, what's it been like seeing, your mindset change around being an entrepreneur as time has gone on?
I think whenever I've had these dry spells and not having business, it feels very discouraging. So having that positive mindset can be very hard. And I find that the best thing for me is to surround myself with other people who are positive or people who are supportive of my business, and to really work on my personal development and read books and that have to do with positive thinking. One of
Mhm.
my favorite books of all time is The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. I
Mhm.
always fall back on that book whenever I'm having tough times. And I feel like that just reading anything about anyone who's had a business, following people who are successful business people, and also Darren Hardy is a big person I follow. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He
I've
is super
Yeah.
awesome to follow anything he has. I feel like he's very good to listen to, and he helps encourage me. And I feel like that there's a huge following of his for a reason, because those people that follow him are all business people like me, and it takes that mindset to really stick through the negative and the downhill turns that would sometimes happen. And I feel like I kind of have a saying that failure is whenever you stop, and whenever you feel like you're failing, you got to evaluate and figure out what's going on and really take into action something else. And you might think it's funny, but I kind of use the nursing process. Remember in nursing school, whenever you learned that nursing process, it was really annoying that you never used.
Yeah.
Well, the concept of assessing, diagnosing, planning, implementing, and evaluating can be applicable to a lot of things in life. And I feel like it's applicable in business. Like
Mhm.
whenever there's a problem, you assess it, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's just using that type of mindset. It really helps me change and grow my business, because there's always something that's going to happen. There's always something.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the nursing process because I mean, a lot of people when you're going through that, you're just like, oh, okay, fine. And I think part of the reason we do that is because it's simple. It doesn't feel like you're actually learning something because you think that you're supposed to learn all of these complex things when you're in nursing school, and it's like, this is more of that KISS method than
Yeah.
anything. But it makes so much sense, and it makes sense because it is applicable on a more global level. So, yeah, I mean, being an entrepreneur, it's all about who you surround yourself with, and whether or not that's the podcast you're listening to, the voices that you're hearing. Um, I know that there are some podcasts that I listen to, and it's like that person's voice kind of becomes, not I don't want to say the Jiminy Cricket, but I'm having trouble coming up with a different saying there. But essentially the voice in the back of your head, and where
Mhm.
you're maybe having that tough time, and it's like, no, you just get up and you keep going, just keep fighting
Yeah.
for that next thing. And so man, this has been really cool. So you know the entrepreneur bit of this is I think it's so applicable, like we said, to all kinds of other businesses. And obviously we talk a lot about all the different plan Bs on this podcast and stuff. So um what I appreciate about what you're offering is the the idea that it's kind of the whole package. You're helping people along the entire process of not just buying a home, but when you move, it's there's so many other things involved from an emotional perspective that people don't really think about. It's you're uprooting your life, possibly from other places. And some people move around a lot and it's not as big of a thing for them. They're kind of used to that. But some people, they're moving, families and, kids are changing schools and stuff like that. So, you know, how you're obviously a Houston native. and which I have to mention, I have to double check the way that I say Houston, because I grew up in Houston County,
Oh,
in Georgia, and I went to Houston County High School, and it wasn't until later on people were like, "You pronounced that wrong." I'm like, "But it's no, it's Houston. No, it's Houston." And so I can't. Every time I say Houston, I think, "Am I saying it right? Am I, you know?"
that's funny.
Anyway, back from the tangent now. Um, so I appreciate that you kind of have this whole service set up and whatnot, and that was your design from the beginning. Where are you looking to go from here? What are the next 5 years, 10 years look like for you?
I hope to have a large team, and I hope to have offices around the state of Texas and the large cities, and have this business just continue to grow and be. I like this boutique type style where it feels small,
Mhm,
and I just feel like this concept can grow out of state as well. And I like to continue growing it with other healthcare professionals who are interested in getting into this type of brokerage business because it works very well together. One of the big things about real estate brokerage is networking and farming, they call it,
mhm,
and getting finding clients. So we naturally have the clients come to us whenever we're around large groups of people, wherever we're at. But the hospital setting is a great place to meet people and find these type of people that could be clients. And one of the things I wanted to add is that nurses in general, we're great people. I mean, we're always rated top for like the most ethical and trusted people with that. What's that name of that poll that they do national?
oh, you
Uh,
asked me, and I'm not gonna be able to come up
is
with it,
it,
but
is it
yeah, it's a
Gallup?
survey. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's.
a survey. So we're always ranked the top.
Mhm,
So we are we're trusted already taking care of patients in the hospital. So we are trusted obviously to take care of the most difficult transaction people are going to make is buying a home.
mhm,
So that's why a 5 year projection, I see a lot of people helping me grow this business who are like me, who are nurses, and they're kind of burned out working in the hospital setting and they want to help people. I mean, we all like to help people because we're nurses, and we are helping people. We're helping
mhm,
them buy a home and helping them sell their homes, and we're that resource.
yeah.
So I think having that heart and caring is what's very important in real estate, to be there for those tough times whenever people are stressed out because it can be pretty stressful.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a. I mean, gosh, I bought a rental property a couple years ago, and just dealing with the banks was a pain in the rear end. I mean, just so
Oh yeah.
stressful.
It is.
So having somebody there to kind of walk you through that whole journey is a very cool thing. So, no, kudos to you. I think you're building something that's really great. So,
Thank you.
but so anything else that is on your mind? Anything you feel like we've maybe left undone here today?
I just feel like I want to encourage people out there who have kind of like they're not happy, to just really evaluate and think about what would make them happy because you really should be happy with your job. And I think the CRNA career path is great. I think that we have the mindset to do whatever we want. And if it's, to work as a CRNA full time for the rest of your life, that's great. But if you're not happy, there's always something else you can do. And we have the mindset to become successful entrepreneurs. That's what I feel like is special about us in our community is we're very ambitious and we're smart, we're hardworking, and that is all helpful for you to have your own business. And if anyone ever needs help with anything, I mean, I feel like you can contact me and ask me, pick my brain. I can help. I think in the future, I would love to do some business consulting. My husband does business consulting because I feel like that's a really rewarding thing to do to help people get their businesses going. And part of it is just that beginning stage of just starting. And that's the hardest part to get
Yeah.
off the ground.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah.
For
And
sure.
just don't give up, don't give up and don't stop.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah.
this has been awesome, and you did mention that people can get a hold of you. How can they do that?
They can call me, text me on my cell phone. My phone number is 713-376-4418, or they can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and or they can email me. And I
Cool.
think we can share my contact information with them later, right,
Yeah,
Bobby?
I'm gonna have that all in the show notes. We're gonna put it all in
Okay.
there. And I also I typed in I was gonna look up Darren Hardy. I know his name
Oh,
and
he's
so
amazing. He's
yeah,
he's
and
awesome.
so I'll include a mention of him and of course the Power of Positive Thinking book that you mentioned as well.
Oh, yeah.
Want to put
It's
that in
great.
there. So well, I mean, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time today, Annabelle.
Thank you for having me, Bobby, and I really enjoy this podcast you have. I think it's great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I tell you, it's an adventure every time. You never know how each conversation is going to go and what you can expect and there's just I've had so much fun doing it. It's really been a treat. So, but
Thank you.
but
I
yeah,
know it's
thank
a lot of
you.
work, but thank you for doing it. It's just it's nice to hear other people's stories too.
Yeah. Oh, I enjoy it. That's why I do it. That's I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of it is, I mean, I get bored just talking about apartments all the time. And I mean, seriously, like because like there's only so much time in the day for me to be able to spend with that. And then it's like, okay, what else is out there? I need to see,
Yeah.
what everybody else is doing. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of, I'm curious. That's just me.
Yeah.
So but
Definitely.
it sounds like you are too. So you definitely do your own research and you're doing great things. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
This was another great discussion. We all get into healthcare because we want to help people, but Annabelle realized that providers are sometimes the ones who actually need the assistance. By offering a boutique, soup to nuts kind of real estate service to her clients, she's able to set herself apart from other brokers. The cool thing, though, is that she still loves her job as a CRNA. While she may go down to part time eventually, right now her side business fits perfectly alongside her full time anesthesia gig. PRN Realty fits her lifestyle and her desire to do good in her own hometown, which is all that any of us can really ask for. If you're in the market for a new home in Houston, make sure you reach out to Annabelle. Her contact info is in the show notes, and I also included the links for those book recommendations that she mentioned as well. That's going to do it for this episode. I hope you'll join me again next time on the Plan B CRNA podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by OnCall Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find OnCall Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.